If you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do. All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Welcome to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Heidi, and today I'm joined by the wonderful Sarah.
Hello.
We are talking about the very exciting topic of keeping your kitchen clean, but not just clean, disinfected, like the next level of clean.
Okay.
Like, I feel like this is, I don't really care how neat you are or like what you store in your kitchen or if you just have like papers everywhere, which, you know, it happens. But this is particularly about disinfecting it, because you might think that in your home, the bathroom is the dirtiest place, but in reality, it's actually your kitchen.
Is this episode going to creep me out so I never want to go in my kitchen again?
This did kind of creep me out a little bit, I will say. But
okay.
I provide tips on how to avoid being overly creeped out. It might make you paranoid, though, about cleaning. Which I mean, I guess that's a good type of paranoia. I don't know. I just learned there's so many ways that your kitchen cannot be sanitary, which frightened me.
Yeah.
And like when I learned the disgusting fact that your kitchen is the dirtiest place, I feel like I just need to, one, tell all of you that, but then also tell you how to keep it clean. Because that's where your food goes, right, which then goes into your mouth and then into your body.
I guess I can understand, you know, you're handling all kinds of things in your kitchen, raw meat, all that good stuff that can then, if you don't take precautions, get everywhere and cause lots of germs and problems.
Yep. And I feel like also I always think about this, like all the water from your sink and stuff like that just kind of like, it just ends up like puddling up sometimes, like the crevice behind your sink between like the wall and the sink is always gross to me, and just like that kind of stuff where stuff can grow and just live in my home creeps me out a lot.
Petri dish.
Yeah, that's how I feel.
Gross petri dish.
Yeah, I feel that even more now after looking into this, especially like when I went to then like wash my hands. I was like, I'm washing my hands, but potentially in a place that's very unsanitary. Which brings us to the topic of the sink.
Yes.
Because this frightened me, I think, the most. Because, again, it's where I'm supposed to go to wash my hands to get clean. But it's not that clean, unfortunately. So the first tip I'm going to give you with disinfecting your kitchen is that you need to clean your sink. Studies have found that the kitchen sink is crawling with even more bacteria than the garbage bin. The drain alone typically harbors 18,000 bacteria per square inch, which is terrifying. The faucet handle, which can reintroduce bacteria to your hands after you've washed them, is a close second, which is also terrifying. Because I laugh at the people who then use towels in public restrooms to open the door. Right. You know, I just frown upon it. But then I was like, but if, like, even the faucet will just give me germs after washing my hands. Like, maybe I will become a person who uses the towel to then turn off the faucet. And then I think about the towel. Like, what's on the towel? That's probably not clean. And everything is just downhill from there.
And you've got a sponge that's, sponges are not good.
Sponges are really gross. I also learned that, like, I think of, like, hard surfaces, like counters, as being cleaner. Like, you know, stuff can't live on that. It just lives in your carpet.
Depends on how soluble it is.
Yeah, that's true. Like, if you have wooden counters, I guess.
Yeah. Different types of porous material,
Yeah. But like even your counters, that type of material can still harbor bacteria. Not just like carpets and stuff, but even hard surfaces. Anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to creep myself out before I get there. Even though the sink is super dirty, never fear because you can clean it. And even just like hot soapy water is really effective at eliminating bacteria. And for added insurance, you can clean those areas frequently with a solution of 1 tablespoon bleach per quart of water. And the bleach will also kill off the microbes that are in your drain. So that's positive.
What about the people who don't like bleach, who don't think it's good and you should never use it?
I have those people in mind. Unfortunately, you'll have to wait till the end of the episode when I tell you alternatives.
Teaser.
I want to leave everyone on a cliff. Yes. But I feel like most of the things I read did encourage bleach because it's what kills everything. Mm-hmm. And I kind of grew up where we used bleach to kill things, but I understand if you don't want to use it, especially for like kids in the house and, you don't want them to eat it or whatever, or for you to eat it for that matter.
I don't have issues with bleach except that I cannot use it without bleaching my clothes every stinking time.
Oh, really?
I have to completely like bubble wrap myself in order to not bleach I've bleached so many t-shirts.
Interesting.
Like just stupid things. I spray down the counter, then I forget I've sprayed down the counter and lean across it.
Ooh. You just full body lean across your counter,
or just bump up against it or whatever, and then a week later after I do laundry, I'm like, oh, look at that, bleached another shirt.
Oh, I'm a pretty big proponent of bleach, also because the smell just tells me that it's clean, right? Which is like comforting to me. Although it bothers a lot of people, so I understand. Yeah. Bleach is probably a bit controversial. Another thing that you should keep clean, this isn't really something that's necessarily part of your kitchen, but it is a very important part of you, and it has to do with all of the food that you're preparing. You need to keep your hands clean. Mm-hmm. And washing your hands is one of the best ways to stop the spread of foodborne pathogens. So even if your kitchen is super clean, if you still have gross stuff on your hands, that's just going to go everywhere else in your kitchen, and then, you'll be starting over.
This is one thing that whenever I'm dealing with raw meat or anything, you touch it, and then you can't touch anything else until you wash your hands.
Yep.
So you wash your hands, and then you have to get the spice or whatever, and then, oh, wait, I have to touch the meat again, and then I have to wash my hands. It's this never-ending,
When things like that happen, I just want someone else to be there who can just, put the spices on, or even better if they're just the ones that, turn the meat over or something, right. So you can spice both sides.
You kind of need multiple people. This is one of those times when living alone becomes more complicated.
Yes. Yeah, agreed. A lot of hand washing. And then you have to worry about the faucet that you just touched with your gross meaty hands.
I try to touch it with a part of me that hasn't touched the meat, but yeah.
I've tried that too. Mm-hmm. Yep. I end up just bleaching the sink afterwards, but
Right.
There's a whole process. It's really important with your hands to wash before and during cooking, especially, as Sarah was saying, after touching raw meat and raw poultry. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration recommends at least 20 seconds in hot soapy water. And if you're wondering how long that is, try singing Happy Birthday, which is apparently supposed to take you 20 seconds.
Happy Birthday, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, or the ABC song I've heard.
Oh, interesting.
I work with preschoolers a lot in my former life, and those were what they encouraged.
I've heard that's similar to brushing your teeth. You're supposed to sing Happy Birthday a couple times or something. I don't know. Again, I feel like it's like a trick to help kids, I don't know, brush longer or wash their hands longer.
Yes.
Also, if you sanitize hands, if you sanitize your hands, but then they still smell weird, like working with onions or garlic or fish or I don't know what else. Mm-hmm. My first suggestion this is just a personal opinion, you should also probably make sure your nails are clean because that can harbor a lot of gross smells and stuff, which is just, or like jewelry if you have rings on or something. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Make sure you clean that. But I did see a source that said you can try rewashing your hands with a couple of tablespoons of mouthwash. Even an inexpensive brand, but it'll get rid of the smell.
I mean, it does say like Listerine. Not that I'm product placing, but I'm just thinking commercials. It says it kills 99.9% of bacteria or whatever.
Yeah,
never really thought about it though for anything other than my mouth.
Well, there you go.
There you go.
I've also actually I have used Listerine to disinfect things or to get rid of smells, like sandals. If you want to clean flip flops or Tevas, you can soak them in Listerine, Listerine and water.
Interesting.
So I don't know, it works well. Although I guess I don't know, the thought of washing my hands in Listerine feels weird, but it gets rid of smells. So if you really need to, you can use Listerine. And it doesn't have to be expensive because it can be expensive.
Right. We're just saying mouthwash. We're not promoting.
Oh, right.
Listerine.
Sorry.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't mean
Listerine
is not paying us. If they want to give me free mouthwash, I will accept it. But we're not trying to place them. Another item in your kitchen that you really need to keep clean, and Sarah mentioned this, and I think this is one of the grossest things in your kitchen. It is your sponge. So whenever possible, use a paper towel or a clean dishcloth instead of a sponge to wipe things, like the counter or your sink. Which always people, if they use their like sponge to clean dishes that had gross food on it, and then use that to wipe their counters, you're just like wiping that all over your other surfaces. And then you're wiping the sink germs onto your plates, and it's not good.
I like to run mine through the dishwasher on a regular basis. Just chuck them in, you clean up the kitchen, you chuck the sponge in with the dishes.
Yep, that's important to do. Because if you're using a sponge, you need to disinfect it. You can put it in the dishwasher, like Sarah mentioned. You can also microwave it. Apparently freezing it works, which I guess makes sense.
Yeah.
Bleach it again, or you could boil sponges in like hot boiling water. And if like you've used them for like a month or so is probably how long you want to go before you're disinfecting them. Again, you can put them through the dishwasher, or you can just wash them with really hot soapy water and I guess just really squeeze them out afterwards, because you don't want them holding in any of the water, which just a damp sponge when you just grab it and it's cold. Who wants that? Please don't. Just rinse them off beforehand. Lab results showed that microwaving and boiling sponges are the most effective, but since sponges can burn in a high-powered microwave, it's typically recommended to boil them for 5 minutes. So I guess I don't probably do that enough, but it is important.
I'm just thinking of the smell of a burning sponge in your microwave. Boil it, people. Save yourself the grossness.
Oh, that does sound awful. Along with the smell of just damp sponge. Oh,
ew.
God, yeah, that's really bad. We're going to go on a break, but before we do, I want to mention something that's really important, especially talking about health. If you suffer from asthma or know someone who does, you know that air filters can be really helpful and really important. But there is a new air filter out there that is even better than the HEPA filters that you often know about. This is Molecule, and Molecule introduces a breakthrough science that is finally capable of destroying air pollutants at a molecular level. So it destroys them, not just stores them in the filter like many old filters do. One customer who used this even said she was able to breathe through her nose for the first time in 15 years, which is so sad, but also hopeful.
Right. That's awesome. And I'm sorry.
I know. I feel that too. Also, Molecule's technology has been personally effective and verified by science, but most importantly, it's been tested by real people. Molecule has already helped allergy and asthma sufferers around the country better cope with their conditions and significantly reduce their symptoms. If you're interested in Molecule, you can get an offer of $75 off your first order. To get this, visit molecule.com, which is MOLEKULE, and at checkout, enter the promo code GSMC Health. We're going to take a break, and then we'll be right back and keep talking about disinfecting your kitchen.
Still on the search of that one true love? On the limbo in this crazy world of dating, marriage, relationships? Well, listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, your one-stop podcast for everything about relationships.
Welcome back to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. We are continuing about how to clean and disinfect your kitchen. Before the break, we mentioned cleaning your sponge, which, again, I think is the grossest thing in your kitchen. So beyond that, there are some other things you can do to keep your kitchen clean, to keep bacteria at bay. And one of those things you can do is to prevent cross-contamination from different seasonings and things like that you're using when you cook. And though bacteria can't live for more than a few minutes in direct contact with salt, which quickly dehydrates bacteria, leading to cell death, like why you salt meats or why people used to salt meats and things like that, bacteria can live on the edges of a box or salt shaker. So like if you have like a pinch bowl or like those little things you put on dining room table shakers, or even if you're just pouring salt right out of the box, the bacteria can't live in the salt itself, but it can live on the edges of the container. To avoid contamination, it is suggested to transfer like a little bit of salt or like ground pepper or other spices that you're going to be using when you cook into smaller little bowls. And this way you can reach into the bowls for seasoning without having to like wash your hands every time. Like when you touch, like what Sarah was saying, you touch the raw meat or other things like that, you always have to touch it, then wash your hands and touch the seasoning. Then you probably have to touch the raw meat again, and then you have to wash your hands again.
Right.
To avoid this, you can just put your seasonings in separate little containers. So then if you touch the meat and then you have to put seasoning on, you touch the bowl, put the stuff on your meat, and then you just immediately put those bowls in the dishwasher. So you're not worried about like contaminating your whole box of salt or whatever.
See, I always just thought they were being pretentious on the Food Network when they had their little individual bowls already.
I mean, I still think that, but I guess it has a use.
Actually, I always just thought it was for convenience sake because they were cooking and they're like, and then you dump this and then you do this rather than measuring, but yeah, it makes more sense.
Right. I mean,
contamination.
I agree. I also thought it was for like aesthetic purposes, but yeah. I can see it. Like, I hadn't thought about it in that sense, but that makes sense.
Yeah.
You just put it in the dishwasher. Although then that means you have to like do more prep, because you're measuring everything out.
Right.
Which I'm not super excited for, but it makes sense. Especially if you're doing like a bunch of cooking or dealing with a lot of raw meat. I can see this being very helpful.
I agree.
Yeah. Another thing with cross-contamination, you really want to prevent cross-contamination from raw meat, especially like poultry, like turkey, which I feel like comes up a lot during the holiday season when you're dealing with just a giant bird, which is probably a bigger piece of meat than what you're normally dealing with.
Yes.
And so when you're handling raw meat, such as turkey, you really want to avoid cross-contamination from bacteria. And to do this, you can place like the big bird that you're getting, usually wrapped in plastic, on a rimmed baking sheet, and then you cut open the package with kitchen shears, and then you can leave the empty package and the shears and any other dirty utensil on this baking sheet, and then you can like pat your turkey dry or whatever and season it. And then you just discard the packaging and put the baking sheet and the tools right into the sink to clean.
My issue always comes when you're supposed to rinse the darn thing off. So,
yeah.
We always have these ginormous turkeys, and so you pick it up and you try to rinse it off, and then I feel like I spray turkey blood everywhere.
Yep.
And it's like, well, that didn't work out as well as I'd hoped, because I do the cookie sheet and the shears and all that good stuff, but then you have to pick it up and rinse it off, and I have issues.
It's very disputed, actually, if you should be rinsing your meat because of the problem of, like, you're just spraying the gross bacteria everywhere. Right. So some people actually suggest that you don't. Or I guess if you have, like, a smaller piece of meat that you just kind of place it low enough into the sink that you're not really spraying it everywhere, and then you clean your sink,
Yeah.
But I usually do rinse, like, meat if I'm cooking it. I just have to make sure I clean the sink again, which brings me back to my classic, I just bleach the whole sink afterwards because I don't want the risk.
Yeah.
And I live with other people, and I just feel like I probably cook the most. And it's like, then if they get sick, it's probably from some bacteria that I brought into the house, which I'm so sorry about.
But see,
so
first I spray blood everywhere, and then I bleach like loads, and then this is probably
man, this is really an ordeal for you.
It really is, and maybe I just should stop cooking.
I mean, potentially. Good luck.
I'm gonna work on that.
Yeah, I mean, I know you guys have a lot of really big turkeys, so I wish you the best with all of that.
Thanks.
Another surface that often gets dirty, so moving on from some of the cross-contamination, but another surface is like your worktops. Mm-hmm. And as I mentioned, like you might think a hard surface will not harbor bacteria, but it really can. And it's because of that, it's really important to keep worktops and especially like chopping boards and everything clean, because those are the things that really touch the food that you're going to eat. And if they aren't properly cleaned, bacteria could spread to the food and make you ill. Or like it can spread to your knives or other things.
Right.
And I think about this a lot with cutting boards, especially because when you're cutting things, you're putting like grooves and marks into your boards, which is just a place that more gross things can grow. if they weren't gross enough already.
You're right.
It just makes it worse when you use them.
This is why, even if you're not Jewish, it might be an okay idea to be kosher, because then your different stuff doesn't touch your other stuff.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
You're avoiding cross-contamination in a different level.
Yes.
So with the worktops and like surfaces and cutting boards and things like that, it's important to always wash them. Apparently, I read that even before you start prepping food, which seems a little anal, but I guess makes sense, because if you're just having it lying around on a counter or a surface that might get contaminated through some other way, that can end up on your cutting board and you're not really thinking about it, and then you just use the cutting board and, pass everything around, which is just everything about this episode makes me grossed out.
I just decided to not disinfect anything and just build up my immune system.
Just let it go.
I'm just going to see what I can create. Kind of a super human I can create in myself.
If Sarah doesn't come on the next episode, we all know. We know that was not the right route to go. Unless you're going in that route, another way just to clean things up and disinfect is you always want to make sure you're wiping up any spilt food straight away after you spill or splatter turkey juice or whatever. Always wash worktops thoroughly after they've been touched by raw food, including, of course, raw meat, poultry, and even vegetables or even raw eggs. You want to make sure that you're wiping your counters, your surface, any surface, cutting boards, all those things. Apparently before and also after. I mean, I always think of after, but, you got to make sure. Also, never put ready-to-eat food, such as, washed and ready-to-eat salad or bread or fruit or other things like that, onto a worktop or chopping board that has been touched by raw meat or other raw foods, unless you've washed them thoroughly first.
Right.
So, I mean, that makes sense. If you're putting, your raw steak on the surface and then you're putting your bread on it that you're just going to eat, that's bad.
Yeah.
That's just going to, whatever you're about to eat is just going to take on all of the bacteria that has come from those other foods. And apparently even veggies or things like that, you want to make sure that you're washing your surfaces before putting other things on them. Mm-hmm. And if you have a dishwasher, these can be really helpful for being very for disinfecting everything. It's a good way to clean plastic chopping boards, particularly, and it's because they can wash at such high temperatures that they kill bacteria. So know for sure they're killing bacteria in a dishwasher, but even if you can't put things in a dishwasher or you don't have a dishwasher, also just make sure you're washing with hot water and washing liquid, like dish soap and things like that.
Right.
And that, I think, also happens if you have wooden chopping boards, which you can't put in a dishwasher. Make sure you're washing them with the highest water temperature that you can. Yeah. So if you're just putting them in your sink and wash them with cold water, I hate to break it to you, but that's really bad, and you should probably have had a foodborne illness by now. But please don't. Also, make sure you're using soap, because that'll really cut out the grease. Also, why would you not use soap? I don't understand. That's just rinsing. That's not washing.
It's just rinsing.
That's not...
That's your PSA for the day. That's just rinsing.
In case you wanted to know. Mm-hmm. That's your takeaway. Hot take. That's just rinsing.
Yes.
Along with other surfaces that you should wash, this is one that I guess I always wash, but I don't think about in terms of disinfecting. I just think it's gross. But you should always be washing your utensils. Knives, spoons, forks, any utensil. I always think about that, but not because of, germs. I just I don't want to use this fork again.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah. Who's not washing their utensils?
I have no idea. I don't know who this was speaking to when I read it, but
I guess people probably reuse knives while they're cooking the same thing. You shouldn't obviously use the same knife you just used on the raw meat or poultry, but I sort of see if you're chopping up a bunch of vegetables for a salad using the same knife, but who's not washing their knife after that?
I don't know. Maybe people out there are. If you are, please stop. Yeah. It's really important to keep knives and other utensils like wooden spoons, spatulas, tongs, and everything clean. And that helps the bacteria from spreading to the other food, which you are then using with those utensils. And it's really important to wash them thoroughly after using them, especially with raw food, because they can just spread bacteria to other things. And wooden utensils are porous, so that's gross. Make sure they're disinfected. And again, if you have a dishwasher, this is a really effective way to clean these utensils. Again, they wash at high temperatures and they kill bacteria. And if you don't have a dishwasher or can't put them in there, just wash with really hot water and soap. Dish soap. So please do. Again, I agree. I don't know who's not doing that, but please do.
Please.
So many important facts in case you didn't know. Wash your utensils. Before we go on to our break, I want to mention something that, as I've mentioned before, is really important, And again, if you're into health, you know how important it is to clean your air. Even if you don't have asthma, it's important to have your living environment healthy and particularly dust-free. A filter that is out right now that can really help with this is Molecule. And Molecule introduces a breakthrough science that is finally capable of destroying air pollutants at a molecular level. So it doesn't just trap them in your filters, it destroys them. One customer who used Molecule said that she was able to breathe through her nose for the first time in 15 years. And if that isn't convincing, I don't know what is. Molecule's technology has been personally effective and verified by science, but most importantly, it has been tested by real people. Molecules already helped allergy and asthma sufferers around the country better cope with their conditions and significantly reduce their symptoms. If you are interested in using Molecule, you can get $75 off your first order by visiting molecule.com or molekule.com, and at checkout, enter the promo code GSMC Health. After the break, we're going to keep talking about disinfecting your kitchen.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Health and Wellness Podcast. We are continuing to talk about disinfecting your kitchen and just avoiding the spread of bacteria. Another thing that's important when you're talking about items in your kitchen is the kitchen fabrics, like your towels, your aprons, pot holders, whatever else you have in there. Mm-hmm. All of these items, including your sponge, as I've mentioned before, you really need to wash them, especially if you're touching them and stuff after handling raw meat, poultry, or even vegetables. All these items should be disinfected, and that can be done by washing them in hot water. Also, apparently for, I guess when they're talking about hot water, you want to be greater than 60 degrees Celsius.
That's pretty hot.
Yeah, which is very hot. Also, some of them you can just dispose after use, which I guess, I don't know, if you have a really old towel, I guess, you just can. But if I have like just a normal towel, I'm going to want to wash it and then reuse it.
Right, that seems very wasteful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
exactly.
This is one place where I will use bleach.
Yeah, if
Obviously
you're just doing
not,
a load of towels, it's really important.
If I'm doing a load of kitchen stuff, I'll throw in the bleach.
Right, not
just
your favorite shirts. I can
usually manage to pour it into the washing machine without getting it on myself.
That's good. I'm glad. Along with your kitchen fabrics, and as Sarah said, you can use bleach for these things. You can use bleach for basically almost all of these things that I've mentioned that we're cleaning in the kitchen. But as was brought up at the beginning of the podcast, you might not want to use bleach. Like Sarah, you might get it all over your clothes. Or maybe you just, feel like you don't know what's in it, or you just don't trust it, which is fine. If you're cleaning with bleach, it's important to never mix bleach with ammonia or other cleaning agents, as doing so can create chlorine gas, which can damage your eyes and throat and lungs. So it's really important just to use bleach. Like, you can mix it with water, but it's probably best not to mix with other cleaning things.
Don't do it.
Please don't. It's not good for you.
Make sure, even if you're not combining, which you shouldn't be doing, but make sure you've got some ventilation going on.
Yes.
Don't just be in an enclosed space breathing in the bleach fumes.
Yeah, it's not good. You also want to avoid, obviously, like ingesting bleach. But if you do accidentally swallow household bleach, it isn't necessarily life-threatening because it's usually already quite diluted. And most household bleach is only 3 to 5% bleach.
How do you accidentally swallow it?
I
Do you
don't
not realize
know.
that glass that's sitting on the counter is not water?
Oh, who puts bleach in a glass, though?
I don't know.
I
That's
feel
what
like-
I'm wondering. I mean, I can understand if it's a small child who's curious and got into something they shouldn't, which hopefully not. But if you're an adult, how would you accidentally swallow bleach?
If it's in a jug that says bleach, don't drink it. General
Good
PSA.
call. Yep.
Just gonna say that. If you do, though, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention actually recommend, typically poison control is going to tell you that you're going to die. You maybe just leave it alone for a little bit. You don't have to rush to the hospital immediately and get your stomach pumped or whatever. But it is suggested to just drink water or milk to help dilute anything that you might have ingested. So you don't have to panic immediately. Also, some recommend adding a few drops of household bleach, about 8 drops per gallon, to drinking water, just to kill off any pathogens, like if you're in the aftermath of a natural disaster or things like that. So even ingesting a little bit of bleach, you're probably going to be okay. You don't need to immediately panic, but you should probably call poison control just in case. Just to, especially I feel like if children get into it, which is probably the most likely
because they're
thing.
smaller than us, and I don't know how that then affects their smaller bodies.
Right, exactly. I mean, probably if you have a kid and they get into bleach, you're going immediately to the emergency room.
Yeah.
But if you're an adult and maybe you just get a little bit in your mouth, don't immediately panic. You're probably not going to die.
Don't take our word for it.
You should seek
panic a
medical
little bit, but
help.
don't
Yeah. Also, if you don't want to clean with bleach, you can make a natural disinfectant, and you can do so by mixing the following. You can start by pouring a half a cup of white vinegar into a spray bottle, and then add 2 tablespoons of baking soda. Fill the spray bottle with water and shake it all up. And if you want to cover the vinegar scent, you can add a few drops of essential oil like tea tree or eucalyptus or a citrus oil. And one of the reasons this is helpful is because white vinegar is a natural disinfectant. It contains 5% acetic acid, which has antimicrobial properties. It's also great at cutting through grease and grime, and it is really good for cleaning surfaces like stovetops, tables, counters. The smell can be pungent, though, so
especially when you run it through your coffee maker and you've got that hot bleach smell.
Oh,
it's a good time.
Oof. I can't imagine, man, just a hot vinegar running through your coffee machine?
Not bleach, but hot vinegar.
Just to clean it?
Yeah.
Oh, I can
got
see
all
that.
Those inner working bits that you can't necessarily get to.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Just did it on Sunday.
Huh. Well, good to know. Heard it here first. If you want to make a version without baking soda, you can just do white vinegar and water and then add your essential oils. And again, this can be mixed into a spray bottle.
Make sure it's a large spray bottle because vinegar and baking soda, that's what we make volcanoes out of in science projects.
Exactly.
So if it's too small, you're just going to have a mess.
Yeah, please be aware of that. And if you are mixing essential oils into your vinegar water mix, a lot of times those will sit on the top of the bottle. So make sure you're shaking the bottle vigorously before you're spraying it, just so that everything mixes together.
Yes.
And I believe that brings us to the end of the episode. So thank you all so much for listening, and I hope you can tune in to the next Health and Wellness podcast.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Health and Wellness Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.